They called it Operation Just Cause, just because we didn't have anything better to do for Christmas, I guess. That's coming up on today's Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. If you had ever told me 30 years ago that someday I'd be living up here on this mountain in a little village and have a monkey riding on my head, I would have thought you were smoking crack. But you never know how life is going to turn out, and sure enough, here we are. And this is Missy. She's my monkey. She loves me. But I want to talk about Operation Just Cause today because this year is the 30th anniversary of the invasion of Panama, when we came down here December 20th, 1989, parachuted in and took over the country so that we could remove a dictator named Manuel Noriega. Now, if you're old enough to remember that, I'm sorry. But if you're not old enough to remember that, we're going to talk about it a little bit today. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to show you a piece that I made about one of the Rangers who jumped in with me 30 years ago at Rio Hato, right down the hill from where I'm standing. And he's got an amazing story. I made this story about him 10 years ago for the 20th anniversary, so check it out. The year was 1989. Tensions were high in the Central American country of Panama. Self-proclaimed President Manuel Noriega was threatening U.S. interests in the country, including the Panama Canal. After years of failed diplomacy, then-President George H.W. Bush took action to bring Noriega to justice and install a democratically elected government in his place. Almost 30,000 U.S. troops converged on the country the week before Christmas to pull off the largest military operation since the Vietnam War. On December 20th, 1989, at 1 o'clock in the morning, over 700 American Rangers dropped from the sky onto this airfield 40 miles south of Panama City. I was one of them. Our objective was to take out the Panamanian Special Forces base located here at Rio Hato. We succeeded in that mission, but for one of my Ranger buddies, it was the last parachute drop he would ever make.
The light turned green in the C-130s that we were jumping, and it was the first time I actually wasn't afraid to jump. It was remarkably light out for being 1 o'clock in the morning. As I fell, I could see jumpers all over, tracer rounds shooting up through the sky, and pretty quickly I realized I was walking on top of somebody else's parachute.
Mac knew he was in trouble because the lower jumper's canopy created a vacuum that caused his chute to collapse.
I thought, no big deal. They teach you this in jump school. I slipped my risers to the right, and I ran off the parachute. It's like walking on a pillow.
But this was no training jump. Anti-aircraft fire forced the planes to fly faster and lower than normal, and there wasn't enough time for Mac's parachute to reinflate. Carrying a full combat load, he hit the ground so hard that it knocked him unconscious. When he awoke, he knew something had gone terribly wrong.
I tried to roll over so that I could get my 9mm out. I could hear this crunching in my back, and the pain just swept over me, and I passed out.
A buddy soon found Mac face down in the grass and went for help. After several hours, he was evacuated on the first plane back to the States, where he soon was given the news that his spine had been severed. More than 300 other American servicemen were wounded, and 23 were killed in the short conflict. Within 3 weeks, the operation was over. Noriega had surrendered. Eventually, the former dictator was convicted of drug trafficking, money laundering, and racketeering. He was sentenced to 20 years in the federal penitentiary in Miami, Florida. Even after completing his sentence, Noriega is unlikely to taste freedom because Panama and France are both clamoring to try him for crimes in their respective countries. 10 years after the invasion, the United States shuttered its bases in Panama and turned over control of the Panama Canal. Today, the country is a thriving financial center, tourist destination, and enjoys the highest per capita income in Central America. As the 20th anniversary of the invasion approached, and along with a few other Ranger buddies, Mac and I returned to Rio Hato, which had been our drop zone on December 20th, 1989.
Or other buildings, but I know I was really close to the beginning of the runway.
While it was clear the landscape had changed, we also saw how much we had changed, and the memories were surprisingly emotional.
I'm hoping I can hold myself together. It's such a life-changing day. You know, the last time I could walk was 500 feet above Rio Hato. And so that's a little weird. I didn't get to do my job. I wanted to be the who. I wanted to stop bad guys. And that envy is something I have to battle.
Mac went on to share how he was able to make it through the disappointment after his injury.
You know, I wasn't a Christian when I joined the Rangers, but my roommate was having a revival at their church in Lakewood, which was near Fort Lewis. So we go down to Panama for the invasion, and he gives me a little New Testament, which I'm reading in the C-130 on the way to Noriega's place.
After Mac was injured, his roommate continued to talk to him about God.
How do you not like Jesus Christ? He's going around healing people. And my roommate calls me in February and says, "Are you ready? Have you got enough information?" And I did. And we prayed over the phone together, and it was by far the best thing I've done in my life.
That decision changed everything. It's even enabled Mac to be grateful for the way his life has turned out.
Ever since I broke my back, my life has been amazing. I kid you not, I cannot tell you how awesome my wife is. And my kids, I could never ask for anything more magnificent. My career, my friends, and my mentors, I don't know how it could have been any better.
Our return to Panama 20 years later was actually therapeutic, healing old wounds and bringing closure, reaffirming the bond between a few old Rangers who once helped bring freedom to a country. And we all agreed it was worth it.
For me, being a part of that has been such a blessing of my life because I feel like I was a part of something so much bigger than I could have ever done by myself. And I know the people maybe in Panama don't ever think about Mac McElrath. You know, they don't think about any of our contribution here 20 years ago. But I don't care. I wasn't doing it for America. I wasn't doing it for the Army. I wanted to be a Ranger, and I wanted to stop bad guys. And I think we did a pretty good job here, so.
Chuck Holton, CBN News, Panama City, Panama.
All right, so Mac is an amazing guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again this year. He'll be here with about 100 Rangers who are coming down to celebrate or commemorate the 30th anniversary. Now, on that day, or at least that week that they're going to be here, I'm going to be really super busy. So may have a hard time getting podcasts out every day, but I'm doing my best to make extras now so that we can make sure that you get some content every day like you expect it. But it's going to be a pretty amazing trip because we got all these old Rangers coming down. We're going to go around and see all the places where we had, where we did missions back during the invasion. Many of those places, of course, they still exist, but they don't look anything like they did when we were here. And we're going to just have some time enjoying being together, reminiscing, telling some old war stories, and meeting each other's families and that sort of thing. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be pretty amazing. This is kind of what the place looks like now. So this is the site of what was the Comandancia during the invasion. It's now been turned into a park. The kids play soccer out here and basketball and that sort of thing. It's still surrounded by a pretty bad neighborhood called El Chorrillo, but there's not much here. There's really nothing here of the Comandancia anymore. So, you know, just like in the United States, there's a lot of people out here in Panama that are sort of into revisionist history, and they want to make the invasion all about like colonial conquest or something. And it wasn't what it was all about. We came down here to take out Manuel Noriega, and that's it. We didn't have anything against the Panamanian people, unless they were shooting at us, of course. But that was what we came here to do. And I want to set the record straight. So I'm going to be talking about this some more as the guys get here and letting you meet some of them. And I think you're going to like that. So look forward to some more podcasts about Operation Just Cause coming up in the next week or so. In the meantime, that's all we got for today. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for being a part of it. I hope that you're enjoying the content we're bringing you because it's stuff that you're not getting anywhere else. I mean, where else does the host have a monkey on his back? You know what I mean? Especially one that's so in love with him as this one. Give me a kiss. Yeah, she loves me. So we'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.